Hello and welcome back to episode whatever it is, 5, I think, Paul, of
Four.
the
I think it's 4.
Yeah, 4 or 5, something like that. Shamps and Quirky Property Vodcast podcast thing. Something that hopefully I think is now becoming, the quintessential look at the week's property news. Indispensable, I would say. How you doing, Paul? Good week?
All right, I'm good. How are you?
Very well indeed. Very busy, mate, I have to say. I mean, genuinely so. Very, very, very busy. And as we will talk about, it does seem that there's a lot of property indicators that are showing that things are rapidly getting back to some normality in terms of property demand and so on. So yeah. Look, I'm rocking, my friend.
Good. That's what I've been busy doing loads of webinars and engagement and helping landlords. And as you know, we launched another business at Hamilton Fraser. We launched HF Assist, which is a letting agent advice line. Yeah. So it's been really busy. It's amazing how you can innovate through these circumstances.
Yeah, you guys don't stop, do you, at Hamilton Fraser? It's great, actually. And it's and actually those businesses that will prosper coming out of lockdown are those that haven't stood still during lockdown. There's a lot of businesses that I know of that have spent time to kind of strategize and contemplate and pivot and change, knowing that the world is going to potentially change a little bit. And then there are those businesses that have just sat there watching Netflix for the last 10 weeks. Which ones are going to be stronger and better positioned coming out?
And I think also, Russell, you're judged by how you act and how you engage and about getting brand loyalty. And I say that to a lot of letting agents, but obviously suppliers, it's really important. Obviously, we have a great tool with regard to landlord zone, engagement with landlord zones. We're one of the biggest websites out there for engagement. Yeah, it's all about working with the client and sustaining, getting loyalty.
Yeah. So let's talk very, very quickly about yours and my favourite subject, which is house prices. You can potentially beat me over the head, of course, insofar as the 2 indexes that came out. Actually, it was last week now, because we didn't do an episode on Friday for various kind of pressures of work reasons. But Nationwide came out with their number last week, which was a monthly drop of 1.7% in house prices between April and May, which was, as I'm sure you're about to remind me, the biggest drop in 11 years in UK house prices.
Do you know what, Russell? I can bite my tongue, right? This is a...
Seen that happen.
It is a mouth. I keep going to mouth and the true reflection will kick in when the government support stops. Yeah. So I'm talking about obviously last quarter this year, first quarter next year. I think that's when you're going to get a true indicator with regard to the economy and job losses and how they rise. And I saw yesterday. Was it Mansoon or another retailer that laid off 2,000 people? It's every day you look in the business pages of a newspaper, there's job losses. It will really kick in the last quarter, unfortunately, and it's a reality.
Yeah, there are also, periodically the news that kind of gets a bit more buried is that more and more European organisations and global organisations are bringing their businesses here. It was, I think, Nissan, wasn't it, 3 or 4 weeks ago that decided that they were going to halt production elsewhere in Europe and bring it to the UK.
Yeah.
There's been another announcement today, actually, insofar as another business that escapes me, actually, that's, I think Unilever, that's it, Unilever that has decided that they're going to headquarter their European operation. Instead of it being jointly headquartered between Amsterdam and Britain, it's going to be just Britain. So it'll be very interesting to see how it shakes out. And actually, that my ribbing aside and bets aside for a second, the really confusing, fascinating and interesting thing about these indexes is how different they all are. Not only do we have the index from the Nationwide saying a 1.7 month-on-month % drop, within 3 days, lo and behold, the Halifax came out with their number, which was substantially different. It was still a drop, but only by 0.2.
Really confusing for the consumer, let alone people in the industry.
It is, and as I think you and I have rehearsed before, the problem is that those indexes, they are made up of completely different methodologies. Yeah. Some, of course, are mortgage applications that, of course, get skewed geographically. They get skewed in terms of absence of data, which certainly applies to Halifax and Nationwide at the moment, insofar as the amount of applications that obviously are being made because of COVID. Rightmove is just asking prices, HM Land Registry is completions, and there's a lag. So I do think for the next few months there is going to be huge confusion over what's happening with house prices. So, which is why our bet, you and I, is over a decent period of time. It's I think in fact there's only
It is, most definitely. No, but you know what? From speaking with agents on LinkedIn, I'm quite engaged on LinkedIn. I know you are, Russell, as well. I mean, they're doing loads of viewings. There's been loads of offers. I mean, obviously, there's more mortgage products. So, I mean, there has been a bounce, and there is a flurry of activity. So, it's a month to month, isn't it?
It's busy, busy, busy. Let's see if that activity is short-lived or not. Maybe there is an argument that activity is simply just the stuff that is now being satisfied on the basis that, of course, people couldn't do anything for weeks and weeks and weeks. So let's see if it's sustained good activity, and let's see if that activity actually leads to an increase in prices. We'll see. Okay, other news over the last few days. What have you got?
Well, I've got the foundation set up by the former founder, CEO, obviously, of Purple Bricks, Michael Bruce, has set up Agents Together, which is basically, he's actually donated £1 million to the industry for the foundation to help agents with regard to mental health mentoring and business mentoring and advice. So that was quite big news that came in news-wise, and he did an exclusive interview with Nigel Lewis from Landlord Zone. I don't know if you picked that up, Russell.
Yeah, I did. I did see it in Landlord Zone, and he's recruited some fairly big names, really. So Chris Watkin is a part of this, Sarah Edmondson, also Richard Rawlings, I noticed. Yeah. So there's a big effort being made here, big money, of course. £1 million is a lot of money, even to Michael Bruce. But there's definitely a wish, a push here by Michael. I think Kenny Bruce is involved as well, to really do the right thing here in terms of understanding the effect that COVID and lockdown and an absence of business is going to have on the industry, and doing something about that in terms of support, mentoring, and so on. So look, I think it's a very worthy thing. It did get a lot of criticism in the trades, in property industry, estate agency negotiation, in terms of the comments. But I think that Michael and Kenny will know that they're bound to get that stick on the basis that, some agents will say, undoubtedly, that the Purple Bricks revolution caused them some anxiety. But look, I think give this a chance. See what the outcome is in terms of the amount of people that use the resource that they're launching, and indeed what benefit it has to people within the industry. So I think they'll give it a chance. Don't look a big horse in the mouth, I guess, is my message. So
no, definitely, and I think it looks like it's a good initiative, and I think you're right. Give it time, and if it can help the industry and make it come together in some way, it can only be positive.
Well, I help the industry. I mean, look, mental health is something that particularly us fellas never talk about. Yeah. I get asked about mental health all the time, not because people particularly think I'm a little bit kind of screw loose, although that charge has been levied at me a number of times, but on the basis that I went through a very traumatic experience with eMove, and lots of people ask me, how did it affect your mental health? And I think I'm fine, and I don't actually think it affected me significantly badly. But it is the sort of thing, whether it be the stress of an administration, or having to lay a load of people off, or worrying about paying the bills, worrying about whether you're still going to have a business in a few weeks' time. Of course, that weighs very, very heavily, and it's not something that unfortunately we talk about. And I welcome any initiative that helps with that, and also raises the subject so that it's talked about and debated. One thing I wanted to talk about, actually, I suppose it's a number of things. I don't know if you've noticed, Paul, over the last few weeks, the portals, as in Rightmove, Zoopla, and On the Market, have got much, much noisier. And I think that part of that could be that they are trying to get attention, and certainly from the point of view of Zoopla, based on a release they've done, which I think Property Industry Eye covered today, which was around how much money they've saved agents by way of the deal that they did them during lockdown. There's definitely, I wouldn't say it's a charm initiative, but there's definitely some profile raising going on insofar as the portals. I wrote a few days ago about Rightmove, actually, and what I think they need to do, and I'm sure it will be roundly ignored. But there's a big crossroads, a big turning point for portals right now, because there's three of them, and of course for years and years and years there were two, and Rightmove and Zoopla were largely unopposed. The interesting thing is going to be over the next weeks and months, I think, is that there are a number of challenges coming, and they're not just same as business as usual portals. Some of them, like Home Search, Open Bricks, and so on, are looking quite different. And I actually think, and I think you mentioned it to me earlier, I think On the Market announced their results this morning. They are, in my view, vulnerable. But look, I'll shut up for a second. But what have you got to say about the On the Market results that came out this morning? Bearing in mind we're filming this Thursday.
Yeah. I mean, actually, I've written a couple of blogs for On the Market, and I engage with all the portals because I'm all about education, as you know, and supporting agents. But On the Market, their results came out at the end of January for this year, and their revenues. This is obviously pre-COVID. Their revenues increased by 32%, but they recorded a loss of 11.5 million, down 3 million on the previous year. Advertiser numbers are just under 13,500, and they've got over 8,000 branches signed up. I mean, obviously they are owned, but significantly, 65% are owned by agents, with over 3,000 of them are shareholders. So obviously that's pre-COVID-19. I think one thing we did pick up on, and you mentioned in the previous episode, Russell, was that they have a search engine that shows potential tenants and potential purchasers that they obviously can do a viewing remotely, which is a good bit of innovation.
So I think that you don't blame a publicly listed business like On the Market for announcing their results, which they have to do, of course. They have to do that on a regular basis, generally every 6 months. You don't blame them for putting a gloss on. But look, I'm a bit more critical of On the Market than perhaps you and many others. I don't have a great history with them. I was the guy that kind of first threw down the gauntlet insofar as their one portal rule, which I thought was preposterous, and I think has been proved to be preposterous actually, and also them banning online estate agents from their platform, which I thought was actually unjust, frankly. But so I dug in to their numbers this morning, and I kind of tried to find the stuff buried within the numbers that was perhaps not immediately obvious. And look, there were 2 or 3 things that stood out for me that I think they need to address. One is that their average revenue per agent is only 120 quid. Now, bearing in mind, Rightmove's is £1,100. So On the Market's revenue per customer is nearly 10 times less than Rightmove. That's a bad number, when you're a 4 or 5 year old business. The other thing is that they've only got £8 million worth of cash left. If they're losing 11 million quid a year, it doesn't take a lot of working out. They've only got about 8 or 9 months worth of cash remaining, which obviously they're going to have to do something about in terms of a further fundraise. And out of their 13,500 advertisers, it appears 8,000 of their advertisers are paying. So in other words, 40% of their customers are free, not paying anything. So my question on social media today was, if you're one of the 60% that's paying On the Market X pounds a month, £120 by the looks of it, how do you feel as the 60% about the 40% that aren't paying anything? Is that right? Is it fair?
Yeah, of course. But I mean, there could be an argument of we're stakeholders and we put into the business.
Well, yeah, but I don't think it sits well. I don't think it's a particularly commercially sustainable way.
But the other side of the coin, Russell, I agree with you. And obviously, if Rightmove are charging 8 to 10 times more, but actually as an agent, obviously price conscious, and if you're getting some pickup and you're getting transactions and you're paying 10 times less, well, that's got to be appealing as an agent, surely.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's appealing, I guess, if you can pay a lot less and get value in terms of the amount of leads. But importantly, I think portals have got to get away from the standard kind of KPI regurgitation, which is web traffic and leads. Now, web traffic and leads, they might be the start of the funnel for an agent in terms of attracting buyers and sellers, but they're not the be all and end all. Now, the thing that puts money in the bank for an agent is sales, it's deals, it's completion. So I think the Wise portal in the future will be the portal that actually sends leads, both buyer and seller leads, to an agent, but can actually demonstrate that those leads actually do something. Because I could buy leads tomorrow from a lead generator.
Listen, it's quality of leads and it's qualification, and that's down to a good agent knowing that, do you have the wheel clickers that are calling up, or actually have you got someone serious? I mean, obviously, especially if you look at the tenant fee ban, especially with regard to lettings, with regard to the amount of time spent and doing viewings pre-tenancy work to do a deal. That's about a good agent doing good qualification and actually say, is this a warmer lead? You know, what do I focus on? You know, it is all about lead generation and actually in the funnel to actually make sure that have I got the right person. I mean, that's why, you know, these portals are so popular, because obviously, you know, agents, because of course tenants and purchasers hardly go into a shop anymore.
Yeah, well, let's see how it shakes out. But I think it's going to get very interesting indeed over the next few months, because there'll be more portals, more competition, more innovation. God, let's hope so. Let's see. But anything that challenges the big players like Rightmove and Zoopla, and consequently then ups their game in terms of quality, which then obviously benefits the consumer and the agent, and also reduces the cost of those portals. Might not be good for a Rightmove shareholder, but hey, look, who gives a toss? I'm not a Rightmove shareholder. But if it's good for agents and agents can pay less and get more, then competition is good. So bring it on, I say, bring on competition.
It can only be good for the market.
Should we talk about your...
I want to now speak about my foreign property.
Good. Yes. Always fun. Fire away.
Always fun. I'm going to sound a bit generic this week, because I saw that in Portugal they're launching or trying to push the government for a new scheme for the Portuguese Golden Visa with tax breaks for foreigners, effectively, and they're looking at the residents of Hong Kong, who obviously aren't sitting pretty being in Hong Kong. We're obviously under Chinese rule, and they're looking at anyone that invests or looks to invest in property in Portugal could possibly get a visa. They looked at it before. I mean, 15% of the economy lies within the property industry. I know a little bit about Portugal because I was looking at doing some, I had a rental insurance or rent guarantee business, which I had in Spain, and we looked at the Portuguese market. Rents are pretty low over there, and historically, don't really spend a lot of money on maintenance of tenancies, even though tenants stay a lot longer. But yeah, I saw, because they want to stimulate, obviously, you know, you've got COVID-19 and they want to, you know, put some stimulus into money in the economy. So that's a initiative that they're looking at doing. I know Cyprus did it a while ago as well. So Portugal are looking at doing that, and they think that they can attract foreign investment in their property industry.
When you said it was a golden visa, I had visions of it being kind of, you know, sellotape to a chocolate bar or something, and you have to find one of 10 that Willy Wonka had kind of set out.
Not quite. I think if you have chocolate and it's in the summer in Portugal, it will melt definitely, especially on the Argyle. But they're looking at attracting investment. So you know, if you're looking at Portugal, and especially if you know, you're a foreign national in place. I mean, they've got a good relationships with the US and obviously China now, obviously Hong Kong.
Well, I guess if you're
we should watch out for that.
If you're one of these lunatics that wants to be a member of the EU, then maybe maybe that would suit you to try and get Portuguese citizenship, eh?
Oh, you know what? I completely forgot about your Brexiteer mind. I walked straight into that, Russell. We're not talking about Brexit. Brexit's a distant memory, isn't it? Now, but anyway, I'm going to shut you up about Brexit, because this is a property show, not a politics show.
But what will be very interesting about the Hong Kong thing that you mentioned, so Boris has said that if the Chinese don't start behaving themselves in Hong Kong, he's going to give 3 million Hong Kong.
That's not going to happen.
Well, no, but if he does, imagine the wealth that could be transported by those 3 million Hong Kong residents into the UK in terms of property purchase. Look, that is a very, very interesting threat, I think. And it might not happen, might be enough to kind of get the attention of the Chinese government. But, you know, for London estate agents in particular.
Oh, yeah, big up in the hands.
Yeah, particularly with, you know, sterling being weak, which means that London property is now cheaper. That could be very significant indeed over the next year or two.
Yeah, definitely. Valid point. So that moves us on to our next feature, Russell, which is Property Plumb of the Week, which is your baby. Who is it this week?
Well, we've already mentioned them, and look, because I am so critical of them, and because it's topical, because their numbers are going to come out this week, the prize property plum of the week for me is On the Market. And the reason for that is that they've still not got a CEO. So they kicked out their CEO, some would say justifiably, a few months ago. They've issued their numbers, which, despite the gloss, are nothing like they should be, particularly in terms of revenue per agent. And I think they're a shadow of the business that they should have been. You know, On the Market had a huge opportunity to be the agent-owned portal and to really beat Rightmove at their own game on the basis that then agents would control pricing, and therefore, it would be better value for agents. And one way or the other, for whatever reason, that opportunity is slipped through the fingers of the on-the-market management shareholders and all the agents that invested in it and set the thing up. The likes of Strutton Parker and Glentree and Savills and so on. So on the basis that the numbers, I think, are awful, really, and they've only got about 8 months worth of cash left, and they're now going to have to go to the city to raise more money, I think I'm quite justified in labelling on the market as my prize property Plumb pool.
Okay. Fair play to you. I think if there, I think you've got a point with regard to the figures. I understand that, and obviously looking at their numbers, but I think also if they can offer good value for money to agents and it's much cheaper, especially in these tried and testing times, I think that can only be a good thing.
Yeah, no, I think it can, but they have a platform with which they should build on to create better value because of what they charge, but they can't just be cheap. And in fact, they can't just be free to 40% of clients. That just doesn't work. They've got to convert those people into paying subscribers. And they clearly haven't done that very well. So look, I'm not saying that they are down and out. I'm just saying that, look, they need to do more and better. And look, let's hope that whoever the CEO that goes in there, I mean, it might be you, Paul, I don't know, the rumour mill and all that.
I'll tell you one thing for nothing, Russell, it won't be you.
It won't be me. No.
That's a given. Can I have a bet on that?
No, I'll have a bet on that, mate. I'll bet you thousands of pounds, because I wouldn't take the job, I'm afraid. There's such a thing as a poison chalice. Yeah, no, definitely not. So they've got no money, they've got no innovation. They're
Let's move on, Russell. Let's move on.
Okay. Well, look, we'll reconvene next week, I guess, and see.
I mean, we will. Apologies to the viewers. Last week we both got tied up, not literally. You'd be pleased to know. But I don't know about Russell, but I wasn't tied up literally. But a pleasure as always. We will get this out the weekend for our viewers, and yeah, let's reconvene next week and update on more stories.
Yeah, look forward to it. They say a week is a long time in politics, but a week is also a very long time in property at the moment. So there'll be lots to talk about next week, mate.
Take care. All the best.
Cheers.